Imagine you're in charge of a group of men. You're shot in one leg. You're shot in another leg. Then a bullet hits you in the arm. Then a bullet hits you in the shoulder. You're still fighting to keep it going. And then a bullet comes up and smacks you square in the face. And you go face down. Somehow, you survive. We're going to talk about that today, right here at Antietam. Right over my shoulder there is where the Bloody Lane is. It's also where that Sunken Road is. They all connect there together. And this is where we are going to be shooting from today. One of the absolute bloodiest spots. I decided to do something a little different for this afternoon's video. Normally I have a very well put together, prepared thing for everybody. But being here in Antietam, you only get so many opportunities to create something cool and showcase a place like this. And I decided I was going to run a long video here, just me walking around talking about this Bloody Lane and the things that happen here. And yeah, here we go. So this farmland that I'm walking down right now is a farmland that goes out to the Roulette Farm. Behind me here, all across this field, is where the first contact is made with the Confederate soldiers in the Sunken Road. It is the 1st Delaware, 5th Maryland, and 4th New York coming across this field here. Now, in front of me is where that famed Irish Brigade comes across the field and smashes into the Bloody Lane. There is no introduction needed when it comes to Francis Marr and his men. They make a hearty name for themselves here, charging again and again across this field, and eventually pushing the Confederates out of this position to take control of that Bloody Lane back there, but at the cost of a lot of lives when they go across this field. When I go across this field, I like to turn the camera around and let people see it. When I take people out here, I like to show them the terrain, the kinds of things that you are going to run into as you're walking around out here as a soldier. These fields, and I'll pan back here so you can see behind me, the hills, they go up and down throughout the entire length of this field. You are going to go ahead and run into blind spots. You're not going to be able to see the soldiers that you're fighting in front of you. And they're not going to be able to see you at some point in time. And eventually you're going to pop up out of nowhere. And then the Confederates on that side over there are going to aim their guns and fire as soon as you are in front of them. That's exactly what John B. Gordon told his men to do. They were out here, off in this direction, in that sunken road, using it sort of like a breastwork. And those Delaware men, Maryland men, and all those guys were coming across the field. And John B. Gordon had told his men to be patient. When those Union soldiers were coming across the Roulette Farm here and the Mama's Farm across the way, they didn't know what they were about to head into. And John B. Gordon told them, hold your fire until I tell you to. And he said that they could see the eagles on the buttons of the uniforms by the time they had unleashed their fire upon those men. And then the fight was on. They continued to load, continued to fire, and continued to try to kill as many men as possible. Eventually back there, in that sunken road, he had made a promise to Robert E. Lee that they would hold that place at all costs. He ends up getting shot in both of his legs. And while he's standing there wounded twice in the legs, he's hobbling around trying to order people to fight, trying to hold on. Then he gets shot in the arm. So now here he is with 3 wounds, and he's holding on for dear life. And he's fighting to keep his men in place, and his men are begging him to go back. Finally, a 4th shot hits him in the shoulder, and now his men are really frantic. They don't want him to die, so they're telling him to go to the rear of the line so that he can get seen. And before too long, before he could even get out of there, a bullet hits him square in the face, knocks him straight over. And his words about what saved his life is probably the funniest part of this whole thing. Mars men step off from behind me there in the tree line. He's just across the way. The Irish Brigade is about to make their way out through here in this cornfield. Now, I'm not sure if it was corn out here at the time or if it was wheat, but they're definitely coming out across this farmland that I'm in right now. Walking across this same field, marching shoulder to shoulder towards that bloody lane that's ahead of me. The men that make up this unit out here is the 69th New York, the 29th Massachusetts, the 63rd New York, the 88th New York. Those are the men of that Irish Brigade that's coming across here with Mar. They're going to fight like hell to get up there and try to find their way to the other side so that they can drive those Confederate soldiers out of that, what seems like an impenetrable position. Eventually, they find a way to make it up over this hill. Now, there was a documentary done on the History Channel a while back. I think it was called Battlefield Detectives. And they wondered why it was such a bloody place for the Irishmen coming across this field. And they discussed the history of Mar and his nefarious background, if you will. But then they also did a little bit of battlefield detective work with some metal detectors, and they came out here and dug up spent rounds. And what they found was that there were a lot of blind spots out here, and that there were a lot of spots where men were frantic and dropping unspent rounds, cold bullets, if you will, right on the ground. And it's because they were freaked out by the situation that they were in. Those men would be driven back multiple times and have to come back across this field. Now, here in a second, I'm going to turn this camera around so you can see in front of me the hill that I'm climbing just to get to the top here, just to be able to see the objective in front of me and the soldiers that are going to be over there. Eventually, we're going to dip back down again and disappear. So, here we are, Antietam, in the middle of a cornfield. Go figure, right? If you're out here in these places, make sure that you're looking around where you're stepping, because that is definitely one thing I'm doing. Cornfields are very good hiding places for snakes and other animals. So, protect yourself. If you got boots, wear them. These soldiers are now marching through here, and they're coming up in this position, and it's too bad that all this corn's up, because we did a video out here not too long ago, I think it was about a year, maybe 2 years ago, where this field was completely cleared out, and you could see from left to right the entire position that these Irishmen were walking. You could see how the hill rose, and then how they sunk down behind a small rise and popped up just before they got to the bloody lane. So now, as we're coming up here to the top, you'll see somebody's head poking up from a walk that's happening right in front of us. It's a pretty neat perspective. He's not Confederate. And now that we've traversed the field, we're heading down towards that bloody lane. We finally pop up out on the top there, and about maybe a football field's length, we are wide open targets for the Confederates up here, who are going to be pouring volley after volley into us. It's pretty amazing. And here we are. This one's for Ireland, boys. So in that lane right back there, right where that brick wall is, if you will, a colonel fell. His name was Charles II. Charles II was from South Carolina. He had a very ornate sword that was given to him from his graduating class. He graduated top of his class as a cadet in South Carolina. He was mortally wounded back there and had that sword on his lap and was clutching it for dear life. A soldier came up thinking he was dead, grabbed that sword. The man woke up and clutched it to his chest, and that soldier left him alone. Well, eventually the sword was stolen and never returned, and his family languished for a long time wondering what happened to him. But it's supposed that in the picture that Brady took out here on the field in this sunken road, that the man on the end, on the right hand side, is actually Charles II. And I'll post that picture up here if I can get a good copy of it, so that you can see that photograph of Charles II laying there as one of the dead of Antietam. It's a pretty amazing story, and you can walk right here and be at the place where that happened. So last but not least, right here behind me is Piper's Cornfield. This is where the Confederates are now driven out to. They're going out back across this field, and they have to reorganize and get back with the main body of Confederate soldiers. Artillery is sitting up on the crest line over here at Piper's Cornfield. John Pelham's actually out here somewhere fighting too. And not particularly in the Piper's Cornfield, but he's actually out here as an artillerist in Antietam. But these men are back here trying to re-engage the fight that's happening out here for Bloody Lane, and it's a really dangerous situation for them to be out here fighting in this position. And they found out real quick that when overwhelming numbers come to you and you're in a position that seems like it's just the most perfect position ever, where you're covered from being shot at, it can really quickly turn into a desperate fight that will cause you and your pals to die real fast. And unfortunately for those Confederate soldiers, they found out this wasn't the greatest vantage point. So one last time before we push off over here, that position right there, that's where those men were laying in that photograph, and one of them's supposed to be Captain 2. We're going to push off from over here, since we've already had that discussion and conversation about the Irishmen coming across the field, the North Carolinians and South Carolinians fighting here in this position where I'm at right now, and we're gonna head down to the bridge and get one good view of that before we wrap up here with this video and put it together.